Hello guys and welcome. Hello guys and welcome to this new video. And today I am going to tell you how to create the Lambda function into the AWS cloud services. And I will be telling you the what is serverless architecture and what is serverless uh, function, as well as I will also tell you the hands-on experience, like how to create a Lambda function and invoke it through the AWS GUI console. So let's get started. And first of all, I would like to mention one or two more things, like whatever the video I am uploading, it is also having the PDF and markdown or other type of file where I have uploaded the code into the GitHub of this project DevOps GitHub profile, and I already mentioned it this into the comment section and the description section as well. So let us get started, and let's see what comes. So what is the serverless computing? So here we are going to understand what is serverless computing and how to create and trigger Lambda function in AWS. So what is serverless computing? Serverless computing is a cloud computing execution model where the cloud provider dynamically manages the allocation and provisioning of servers. So meanwhile, I would like to tell you, like, serverless computing doesn't means like it does not have any server. It doesn't mean like this, but it has the servers, but we are not responsible to manage these servers, like the resources, whatever the resources to run these codes and run these APIs are. So in this model, developers can focus solely on writing the code that I already tell you and deploying applications without worrying about the underlying infrastructure. Despite its name, serverless, it doesn't mean that without server. It means that users don't have to manage servers for their code. Key characteristics of the serverless computing: event driven architecture. So this serverless computing is having the event driven architecture, means like they are triggered by a specific event such as HTTP requests, database changes, file uploads, or for the any of the scheduled tasks. So if you will compare to the AWS Lambda, if you want to replace the AWS EC2 instance, which are not getting restarted, or which are not healthier in nature, so you can use Lambda function to replace those EC2 instance to completely a new instances as well. And these event activate the serverless code execution and then shut it down the environment when it's done. So automatic scaling in this serverless computing architecture, serverless platform automatically scales up and down based on usages and API calls. It is a dynamic pricing model, so it is like a pay as you go, how much you will be using, and according to that amount in the proportion, you will have to pay for it. So the execution is also a stateless, so it doesn't stores any data, it doesn't stores any states of the application. So if you are having any stateful applications, then you will have to separately attach the storage like database or object storage to the state, like these serverless computing architecture. So developers must use any external storages like database object storage to maintain these execution state as well. Managed infrastructure. So cloud providers manage all aspects of infrastructure management, including server provisioning, scaling, and monitoring. This should not be done by you, and this is for this managing the infrastructure, and for the servers management you are not responsible. You just need to focus over the development of the code. So AWS Lambda for serverless computing. So what is AWS Lambda? AWS Lambda is used for serverless computing and its architecture is simple to understand. Let's understand where we can use AWS Lambda. So we can use AWS Lambda for file processing, stream processing. We can use Lambda and AWS Kinesis to process real-time streaming data for application, any activity tracking, transaction order processing, click stream analysis, data cleansing, log filtering, and activity tracking. We can also use AWS Lambda for web applications which are stateless, like the front end of the application. We can use AWS Lambda for use for AWS Lambda to store or host the front end of the applications like web applications. And we can also use AWS Lambda for IoT, Internet of Things backend designing, mobile backend. We can use the AWS Lambda by using AWS API Gateway and AWS Lambda to authenticate and process API requests as well. You can use AWS Amplify to easily integrate with iOS, Android, web, and React Native frontend. Here you will have to also connect AWS Cognito if you want to authenticate the users as well. So I will be explaining all these AWS terms in the my upcoming AWS cloud computing from basics to advanced class. So you don't need to tension about it. You don't need to take very much tension over it. So this is for the explanation of the what is serverless computing and how to create a simple Lambda function in AWS. So Lambda manages the hardware resources automatically, like CPU, memory, and other processes as well. Like what is the architecture of serverless computing is. So key features of AWS Lambda. So easy environment variables integration. It supports the version control. It supports the container in image development and management. It supports the Lambda layers like Lambda packages library and other dependencies to reduce the size of deployment archives and make it faster to deploy the code. Lambda extensions augment your Lambda functions with tools for monitoring observability, security, and governance. Like when you are having the Lambda functions, there are the Lambda extensions as well. Like multiple tools are available in the AWS Lambda function. You can integrate them to monitor the observability, security, and governance, and you can take it as a extensions like a plugins. You can attach it to the Lambda functions for the great observability and higher productivity as well into your code. So it creates a function URL. So there is a dedicated HTTPS endpoint when you create a Lambda function, so that it can be integrated to other AWS services as well with the ARN and other things. And I will be explaining, I will be having a whole Lambda AWS Lambda tutorial. So don't need to take care about it. There is also a other function of the Lambda like response and streaming. Like I already explained, you can configure your Lambda function URLs to stream response payloads back to client from Node.js functions to improve first performance, or to return larger payloads. So let us create the first Lambda function. How to keep? Let us create. We will be creating our Lambda function and keeping the same thing simple. We will either use Node.js or Python runtime environment to create any of the Lambda function by using any of these runtime environment or interpreted language. What we are doing with this Lambda function in this example, our function will take JSON object containing two integer valued labeled length and width, and then it will multiply and return the value in a JSON string as well. This will generally be used as a calculation of the area, and then it will return as our output in the JSON string. And your function will also print the calculated area along with the name of its CloudWatch log group. So CloudWatch is used to monitor the things like AWS services. So we will integrate our Lambda function with this CloudWatch, and it will also show what are the triggers, and what are the logs are generated by the logs are generated by the Lambda function, whatever we have created right now. And then we will see how this whole CloudWatch log will look like. Some of the additional information that I will give you: in addition to simple function that returns the message from hello Lambda, Lambda also creates an execution role for your function. So you don't need, if you are new to the whole Lambda function, so you don't need to go ahead and create an execution role for your Lambda function. It will automatically create a execution role for your Lambda function, and execution role in an AWS identity and access management center, which will grant the Lambda function permission to access the AWS services and resources. You can also separately create your AWS execution role for your function. Like if it is using the S3, if it is using any of the EC2 instance, then you will have to create a separate execution role in IAM identity management center, access and management center. So you, for this one, we will use the default execution role, which is being provided by AWS. Otherwise, if you want to implement any other things like S3 bucket or any other things like EC2 instances, then you will have to create a separate execution role or extend this execution role to grant the permission as well. For our function, the role that Lambda creates grants basic information to write the CloudWatch log. Here we are just uh, uh, giving the basic permission to write the CloudWatch log. So our function, when our function will run, it will write the CloudWatch logs as well. So we will use this console's built-in editor to write our code as well. So let us quickly hop into the things and let's see how to create a Lambda functions. So I have opened the Lambda functions user interface in the AWS, and let us go ahead and create a Lambda function. So make sure you are having a administrator user. If you are using your own administrator user, then you can go ahead with this, or otherwise you can also create a role for the user, or otherwise you also can create a separate user for execution of this Lambda function. Here I'm using the administrator access for my own personal use. So let us go ahead and straightforward we will create our Lambda functions from GUI from scratch. So here you will have to choose author from scratch. You can use a blueprint or container image as well, but here we are just using author from scratch, and here we will be providing my Python function. We will be using the Python runtime, and we will be leaving everything. Create a new role for with basic Lambda permission. You can also use the existing role. If the existing role, I have multiple existing role is there for the tutorial function and other things as well, but you can create a separate role as well. So AWS policy, you can use the role name, and you can give the AWS policy as well. Here read only permission, any other type of permission as well, you can provide these things, but we will be using the basic Lambda permission which is already provided by AWS. And now we will click over the create function. So I'm not going to waste my time to write the whole code. I have already written the whole code and published it to the GitHub profile. So we will copy it from there and we will use this one. So this is the uh, Lambda function. What does it does, like I will explain you. We are importing two of the things like import JSON import and logging as well, and then we are using the Lambda handler. So this function is the entry point of our Lambda function. So this will be the main function which will be used to execute any of the Lambda function. So this could not be changed, or like it will be changed according to our need or according to our Lambda functions. But this Lambda handler should be there, must be there whenever you will be creating a Lambda function, and based on your requirement you can change the logic between them. Here I am creating the Lambda handler with the event and context and providing the length and width whatever we can get. And this event will be getting, we will be getting this event from we will be getting the length and width from this event, and then we will be calculating the area. So here this is the basic Python script which you can go ahead with this one as well, or either you can create a new Python script to calculate other things as well. So let us go ahead and just straightly copy this thing and paste it here. This code is already published here in the in this project DevOps GitHub profile. You can find it here and it is open to use, and I will be also attaching this into the description section and comment section as well. So we have written this code. Now we will quickly deploy it. Yes, though deployment is successful, and now we will be testing this code as well. So for creating a test, we will have to, there is in this Lambda function we don't have any test event, so we will create a new test event here, and here we will provide the data in key value pairs like a JSON format. So let us provide length, length which is 10, and width which is 20. Now we will name this Python test event. We can you can create any name here, and for our use we are using just this one as a Python test event. Now we will go ahead and quickly save it, and here you will be able to find this Python test event. So let us go ahead and test this. Here you can go ahead and see this Python test event is there. Like we recently created our new test event, which is here. So let us go ahead and quickly run this. So it just gave the typo. Let me save this one and quickly run this once again. So we were correcting the issue, like we were having some typo in our test event. So we have corrected it. Now let us go ahead and straightly re-invoke this one, and we will be able to see this Python test event got succeeded, and this test event name was Python test event, which is here, and this printed the response like area is 200. And here you will also able to find the function logs and CloudWatch log group as well. Let us quickly go ahead and see what does our quick AWS CloudWatch log group has produced. So you here we will be able to see the log groups. Here my Python function, this one we recently created, and we can see the log stream. So this got failed multiple time, like we were providing some length and other things into the event, and you can see like this has logged everything, like multiple error were there, and also the successful event as well. So it got also successful, and it produced the area as well. So the area is 200, and here you can see the CloudWatch logs has been produced. So this was a basic example where I have explained how to create a Lambda function from scratch, and what is the stateless architecture or stateless serverless architecture and serverless computing. And as well, I have already explained what is Lambda. Stay tuned for the more updates, and I will be providing more videos over the AWS Lambda. And one task is there, if you are watching this video to till now, then one task is for you. Go ahead, and I have already produced the index.mjs code, which is in the Node.js format. It was I explained the things into the Python. So you can go ahead and just straightly copy this code, and just if you want to make any changes from your side into the Lambda function or a index.mjs function, just go ahead and create it. And if whatever the problem you are facing, just comment over the YouTube section, and I will be able to answer you, and I will be able to explain you as well if possible there, or otherwise I will create a separate video with your with mentioning your name as well. So thanks for watching this video, and have a great day and nice day ahead. And please don't forget to like and subscribe and share if this video is useful for you, or otherwise you can also share this to anyone else whoever is working into the AWS environment. Though I am new to this channel and new to this YouTube environment, I am coming up with the most exciting videos and DevOps tutorial and AWS cloud computing and Python and other tutorials as well. Thanks for watching this video, and have a nice day. Bye.